Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 17th, 2023 at approximately 4:29 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally live by, the ones I personally use in my day to day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I live by. With this in mind, welcome aboard. And right off the hop, we have Adam is in with the gold, and Stephanie is in with the silver. The answer to your first question right off the bat there, Adam, is yeah. I mean, for me, it's just a routine thing. It was a bad one. I did not end up in the hospital. My heart a couple hours later was fine. I just figured it was better not to try and chance it, considering I was on Nathan's show when I had the heart attack and then when I started having the heart attack in the first place. So I figured let's not just go there. So with that in mind, I ended up taking the night off. Okay, as you can see, my office has shifted gears again. Only in this case, this is where I'm going to be set up now. Joe, how you doing? And Joe, you are in with the bronze. And Eric has just come in with honorable mention. You know, yeah, I mean, was it a painful one? Yeah, that's what caught my attention. Minor ones are just whatever. This one, on the other hand, caused pain directly in the heart as well as shut the use of the left arm down for a bit, or more to the point, restricted it somewhat. But I am breathing. Needless to say, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. Well, I might be, but I'd probably be a little more translucent. But that said, I do appreciate the concern, and sorry about the short notice. I figured I'd best be pulling the plug on that one right off the bat. It was either that or get on the air and then all of a sudden end up with this neat little problem of dropping dead. Not exactly a snuff movie, but not necessarily something you want to watch. So that's where that sits. But I figured we'd get into something that I haven't dealt with in any real detail. I was thinking of looking at the different reptilians, because the thing that gets my attention, and again, before I get into it, if you've got questions, even if they are not on the topic we are discussing, absolutely come out and ask. But put them all in all caps. Okay, because that way it's like waving your hand and saying, hey, I've got a question for you. I will do my best to answer it. Okay, even if answering it boils down to, like it did a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked me a question, I said, I'm not answering. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But I will be honest about it. The last thing I'm going to do is sit down and lie to you to make you feel better. Okay, unless somebody actually asks me directly to. But with that in mind, where are we here? I really got is this thing going to give me what I require? I just don't want to have to struggle to see. Okay, and no, it's not. Of course not. Like, why, pray tell, would the computer by any stretch of the imagination want to tell me that? Adam is asking, what are your thoughts on the cryptocurrency Shiba Inu? Myself, I won't touch the stuff. Okay, it may well be the best thing going. I don't know. My personal opinion is if you're building a currency that has no backing, which unfortunately many of the world's currencies don't have anything backing it anymore. If there's no real functional difference, do I gamble with it? Not at all. Okay. Am I going to say, am I going to say that it's good, bad, indifferent, that you should jump on it or run away from it? Sorry, that's your choice. Okay, myself, do I deal in cryptocurrencies? No, I have enough fun dealing with modern currencies. Okay, and like I said, it's just personal opinion in this thought. But then again, Adam's just asking what are my thoughts on it. I won't get involved in cryptocurrencies. I keep looking at some of the ones that people are like, I get the little blurbs. Thanks, Joe. Eventually the bed behind me will actually be covered. That'll happen tonight, but it's got all the papers from the files over all set up on it now, just because I'm going through them. But no, the way I look at it, there are so many of these things out going, oh, we made so many millions of dollars. And I'm like, if everybody was making that much money, we would not be having people on that were living in the poorhouse. Okay, it just doesn't add up to me. Okay, let's hope that this thing sooner or later will kick in so I can actually see what I'm doing. Nope, still not. Football, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Doing well enough. Heart's working, leg was working today. All in all, not doing too terribly badly. Just normal issues of trying to turn an entire office around. Eternity, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. Yes, I'm trying to bring the other one up so I can see easier, which isn't working as well as I'd like, but what the heck. It'll come up eventually. Let's do that. Oh, there we are. That's what I want. Figured I'd be able to find it somewhere in here. This is my fun with computers. Now we shut that. Okay, we don't need the volume there. Okay. Now bring that back down, and now we can read what we're looking at. Oh, it can be. Thank you so much for that, Eric. I do appreciate it. Oh, okay. Hang on half a second there, Shadow. What you got hanging on the wall near your ceiling behind you? Behind me, near the ceiling. Oh! I can actually drag this thing down. Presumably, this is what you're referring to. This was a picture drawn for me way back when I was still gaming. So this picture is now, there we go. This picture is now 40 years old. Okay, but the gentleman in the picture, this is Jeremiah Wollstrand when we were actually playing. When we were playing Aftermath. The guy that built Oswald, that built Oswald in the wolf pack is the artist that drew this. Okay. But yeah, it's been hanging there for years. Just you guys haven't seen it. I'll hang it back up later because I don't feel like fighting with it right now. But that's what that is. Gotta be. Oh, okay. Those I've actually shown you before. That is my Lord of the Rings collection. One of them has not made it back up there. Well, okay. I've got 22 of these guys hanging up there. And these I got for the absolutely perfect price. These are, as you can see, Lord of the Rings. Okay, now that one is, who is that? Just trying to find her name again. There we go. This one is Galadriel. Okay. As you can see, they're full-size figures. Most of them, the boxes haven't been opened at all. But no, somebody was getting rid of them and asked if I could asked if I had any use for them. Well, let's face it, I happen to be a Tolkien fan, so that was a no-brainer. Yeah, and then you got too many of them, Eric. Let's scroll back up here half a second. What have we got? Okay. In your past lifetimes, were you always male? Football, in all fairness, every single lifetime that I have found, that I've recalled, and every one that past life regressionists have ever come across, I have never been female. Okay. Not in a single one of them. And that's saying a lot given the number of past lifetimes I'm dealing with. Let's see. Do you think there is some realism to magic like they had in Harry Potter? Oh, no. No, it's not some realism. The thing actually works. Okay, Adam, the idea of magic like they show in Harry Potter, okay, is very real. Problem, in today's world, you're having to fight again. It's a question of the excess energy levels. So many people do not believe in it that it no longer functions because it's not just your will you're working on, it is also the will of the society. And humans do not believe in magic on the whole. They relegate it to the fantasy world, and it's great there. But as a functional tool, on the whole, humans do not believe in it. Okay, but when you think about it, if you can manifest, if you can focus and manifest a parking stall for yourself, now HOGD, I really don't know what that is, or for that matter, Tolima. But let's face it, I will tell you that that true magic does work. Okay, and yeah, here I am. And this is the reality behind it. I consider myself Christian because I do believe in God. I do believe in Christ, but I also believe in magic. Hence why, Keith is secretly a Satan worshiper. Keith doesn't worship anybody. Matter of fact, Keith doesn't worship Keith. But does magic work? Is it usable? The answer is yes. The problem is you've got to believe it is possible more than the rest of the people around you believe it's not possible. This is one of the reasons why if you look at magic like they show in Harry Potter or like they show in Dungeons and Dragons, okay, this idea of healing by touch, people do it all the time. Okay, we call it Reiki or various other names. Oh, thank you so much for that, Eric. See, this is what I get for not reading enough, which is not likely to change anytime soon, by the way. That's just the reality behind my life. But, does it work? The answer is yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, what do I got here? Just because I want to make sure I stay on top of things. The thing that I was looking at today, and I don't know if I brought enough, if I brought them all up. Let me see. Races of the Worlds. Bring that up and move it over that one's up. Nope. That one can go over there. And then we change that, modify that size to there. And we are going to have to phone him after. How's little brother? I don't feel like talking to him right now, considering I'm on air. And since I'm not dead, I'll get in touch with him right after. But where are we? Anyway. Yeah, unfortunately, Eric, that is the biggest problem, and one of the biggest problems in today's world. Okay, that being that people are so caught up in the financial side of it. Joe's just going, my father hums a lot and constantly. I can hear it out loud. He himself had a stroke 10 years ago. Yeah, I had mine 4 years ago. I do feel for him, though, because I'll tell you, strokes are a royal pain to come back from. But, it can be done. It can be healed. There's no question there at all. Where is that one? Okay, now I've got both of the books up. This is good. Hey, would you mind? Thank you. But no, the way I look at it, people heal themselves all the time. Okay. Unfortunately, some parts seem to be, and it's got to be a mental block. Some people have, some people, we'll try English, shall we? Just one thought at a time. Many people that heal themselves, it's literally a case of they just don't feel like being ill that long. In my case, when I snapped my arm, I literally told the doctor I could not afford to be broken for that long. Okay, that was just the reality behind it. That wouldn't be a shock there, Eric. There are ways of treating strokes, of getting things back running. It's not a question of the doctors are totally useless. In my case, they've got a real run for their money in trying to figure anything out. But hey, what the heck? But no, I don't want to dwell on it too terribly long. Did I have a heart attack yesterday? Yeah, or not yesterday, day before. Okay. Day before? Yeah, I had it actually while I was on Nathan's show. Right. And I mentioned that to him. That was one of the reasons I ended up cutting the night short for him. With him. But it caused problems with the heart. It made the arm a little sluggish. Other than that, I've been fine. The humming, in all fairness, in answer to your question there, Joe, humming actually has a subharmonic healing capacity for the brain and the superstructure of the cells. Okay, your father probably doesn't realize the impact he's having, but it's actually a good thing. He may not even be doing it consciously, but it's actually a very beneficial maneuver. Okay, because that vibration, much like with many other things, that vibration stimulates the growth. Hey Nathan, how you doing? Oh yeah, it was a hiccup. I mean, I warned you that when we were on the air. Yeah, I'm a little hiccup, having a bit of a heart attack. To me, this is just a routine annoyance. Which reminds me, forgot to take my second run at Hawthornberry today. Primarily because the day has been a shambles, but I'll deal with it as soon as I get off show, as soon as I get done the stream. Needless to say, the things I'm working on, my list has not exactly gotten smaller. What do I got here? Blank sheet of paper. That's always nice. Okay. Anyway, where are we? Hey, Henry, glad you could join us. Well, the funny thing there, Nathan, Nathan just said, yeah, it happened on my show. Well, think of it this way. You did say that you didn't want me walking off the show. Okay. You said nothing about dying on it. So I figure what the heck? We were just, as you keep putting it, we were just keeping it real. Am I going to die permanently anytime soon? No. But on the plus side, it did prompt me getting a hold of a lawyer regarding getting a will set up, getting power of attorney and all that in place before I actually get around to kicking off. So, everything's going to go fine from that end. But now what I'm looking at, is getting things organized. And the office is a bit of a disarray, which is why you can see all the paperwork behind me. You should have seen when I started, the paperwork that's sitting here was stacked up like this. It's all back in the file drawer where it belongs at this point. But the reality of where I was planning on starting the topic, let's see, I just want to pull up the right information here without actually hanging myself out to dry. Let's take that down. Pull that all the way down. That's Chitawari. Oh, they have to be moved. Okay. Now, I said when I set this up, I said I was going to look at A Reptilian Empire and the civilizations it spawned. Now, you guys know them as Drakes, as Alpha Draconis. They know themselves as Sarkon. Okay. Now, that reptilian race is, quite frankly, millions of years old. But they made a classic mistake early on. They expanded their empire too fast. Okay, and yes, by the way, I do have in the new book coming out, in the second printing, we do have pictures of them. And if I could figure out how to put them on screen, I would, but okay, I'm guessing that is really choppy, but that's because I have to be on Wi-Fi right now. I used to be hardwired in. So you're undoubtedly looking at a very fuzzy picture right now. But at least it seems to be holding. So I do apologize for that. I'll have to figure out a way to hardwire the thing or get a booster in here. But the Sarkon Empire expanded too far, and they had to cut back, much like many companies, many civilizations have done in the past, even on Earth. Okay, but when they pulled back, they left 3 groups of Sarkon on the outskirts that were left completely alone. Are they the ones that all of the conspiracy people claim here? I'm still running into that problem, I suspect. Reptilian. I will tell you wholeheartedly, that whole concept started in about 1977 with the movie V. Okay. And then when the series came out in about 1982, it became absolutely amplified. I will tell you, the heads of the physical appearance of the Sarkon, as compared to what everybody put in is compared to what V was based on. Okay, they're not the same, but people go reptilian, and we have that I can think of just a rough guess about a dozen different reptilians that I know of, reptilian type races. Okay. And, the fact of the matter is none of them are trying to take over Earth in that fashion. They don't have the patience for it. If they wanted to take the planet over, they would absolutely do so if they were permitted. But I'll tell you, the bad side of trying to take over this planet is they lose their 3. But, see, the thing with the Sargon, number one, they don't want to conquer a place. They simply want to run whatever's left. And it doesn't matter whose race it is. They simply look at it and go, if we could run it, if we've got our fingers in the cookie jar and we're able to control and to run it, this is great. But in human vernacular, trying to govern humans is like trying to herd cats. Okay. It doesn't work well. Okay. You actually have to have some semblance of order. Okay. In order to be ruled. Okay. And they don't. If you take a look, it was shown really well in Avengers when the show had the alien invasion, and they looked at it and went, humans are unruly and therefore unrulable, which is pretty much the case. Humans work best in a cooperative effort, in a cooperative environment. Exactly. And besides that, every time you try and tell a human, this is what you have to do, what's the first thing that most humans come up with? Want to bet? It just doesn't add up. But the Sarkon, they do look down. And now, aside from the fact, you have to realize that aside from the fact that they're on average, their normal adults are 12 to 15 feet tall. They absolutely look down on just about every other race, either from a physical standpoint or mentally speaking. They go, we're better than everybody else, so you should just bow down and trust us, and just do what we say because I'm Sarkon. And it's like, that ain't the way it works most of the time. Well, you're welcome to it, damn Eric. Eric's going, but I want to do it. The thing is, the Sarkon built a phenomenal empire. But what they left behind when they pulled the outskirt, when they reduced their area. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. When you take a look at reptilians, take a look at the fact that you're dealing with walking, like we're talking huge reptiles. Okay. And I mean, 7 feet is bad. Try one 12 feet tall. 12 feet tall, you're looking at a mouth that'll swallow your torso. Okay. But the Sarkon built an empire that spanned literally hundreds of thousands of light years. But what they ended up doing was they expanded too fast and they had to cut the outskirts off, leaving the Srazazians, the Tormenon, and the Kamalians behind to evolve on their own ways. Each one has a baseline route with the Sarkons. Okay. And we'll get to the other ones in a little bit. But where it came to the Sarkon Empire, they were a force to be reckoned with. Okay. Did they still prefer close combat? Absolutely. Now, bear in mind, there are some humans that like close combat. If they didn't, we wouldn't have the MMA. Okay. But even the biggest of the humans doesn't have a prayer against somebody that size. I mean, this is just the reality behind it. Did I bring those books back? Yes. Okay. See, when I look at it, and I went to people have asked me whether or not I'm actually, making things up or translating. Okay. This guy here. Okay, there's a standard sized human. Okay. Now look at the size of this chap. That is a proper rendition of a Srazazian. Okay. But look at the size of his mace compared to the size of the human. Now, think of this. This is a Srazazian compared to a human. The Sarkon is about the same size comparison. Okay. Needless to say, this is a bit of a hiccup. especially if you're trying to get into a fight with them, which, by the way, is not exactly a wise idea. You know, so when we take a look at it, they built an empire that was based on a number of things, not the least of which, okay, when you look at the way they ran their government, it was very much a monarchy, very very similar to the ones that used to be here on Earth. Okay, where they literally, if the king said, "We're going to war," he was the king because he was bigger than everybody else, because he was more combat oriented or combat capable. So when he said, "We're going to war," okay, he was out in the front of the battlefield. Okay, funny part about it from their standpoint is, yes, they had the firepower. They could take a ship out by utilizing energy weapons and what have you. In all fairness, Eric, from what I've seen, no. Okay, they have a much higher efficiency level in their, and I forget what the term is, but in their lungs. Their lungs are much faster at they're much more efficient, but they also, and the drakes also have an extra organ in their system that literally creates oxygen, creates the oxygen mix. Okay, meaning they'll pull oxygen out of anywhere that's got an atmosphere of some sort, as long as it's got certain components. No, they cannot breathe in a vacuum. For that, they require an oxygen enhancement. But do they have a tendency of, the funny thing is they don't even sleep more than what people do. They just eat a lot more. And they do prefer fresh. Okay. See, the Sarkon, the neat part there is when they were actually stably on Earth, we had dinosaurs. Okay. Which meant their food supply, on Earth at this point. I know there are some on the moon, but they've got special adaptations to handle everybody's oxygen levels. Funny thing is, there are some races where you actually have to, where a 21% oxygen level would be too much for them, and they'd end up being overloaded with it. But the Sarkon, they built an empire based on war. Well, I shouldn't call it war. They based it on conquest. Okay, they come into an area before the consortium came into existence. The Sarkon would come into an area and go, "We're taking this planet." There was no negotiation. There wasn't a case. Let's go down and talk to the government and see if we can arrange a treaty. You don't arrange a treaty with an ant farm. You just don't. So they didn't bother. Okay, but when the Sarkon ran around here, the oxygen levels were incredible. Oh, there you go. See, I don't even go in the water anymore. After I drowned, I decided the water was no fun. But yeah, the Sarkon have an extra lung that they work with, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Okay, it's not a lung, it's an organ that literally pulls the different elements out of the atmosphere that's available to create what they require to breathe. This makes them really, really dangerous in a combat situation, in case you couldn't figure that out. So they expanded their empire. They literally traveled from one star to the next. Okay, But it was neat because they were very methodical. They'd go to the outer planet, they'd set up a foothold, and then from there, they would take the system. But they would take the system without asking anybody. They would walk in and go, we're taking over. If there was an argument, the negotiation boiled down to, do what we tell you, and you get to live. But they didn't have any interest in micromanagement. Okay, so it's like, govern yourself however you please. We're in charge, and we gave you permission to govern your own world. Okay, they had a real neat solution. I remember one story I was told about their early years. Somebody did accuse them flat out of controlling their government, their world, right? And blamed the Sarkon for the disarray, for the wars. So the Sarkon came up with a real brilliant solution. They went, okay, you're blaming us and you're telling us we have to fix it. So they contacted the other planets in the solar system and went, we have been accused of controlling this world. So we've been charged with solving the problem. Brace yourselves because your weather's going to get screwy. Okay. What they ended up doing was they blew the planet up. They just wiped it out of existence and then put an artificial orb, an artificial gravity balancer in the place where the planet had been, stabilizing the rest of the system. Now, for some weird reason, the people in that system and in the systems nearby decided that accusing the Sarkon of being responsible and telling them to fix it, the rest of them decided not to go that route. Okay, but the Sarkon had an iron grip on the worlds they had. And then when the consortium came in, right, when the consortium was formed, they worked out an agreement with the Sarkon that the planets that joined the consortium, and yes, it did get into a bit of a war for a little while, but Sarkon are not a violent race per se. They're not interested in fighting to have control. They're interested in walking and going, I'm bigger than you are. I've got better tech than you. Therefore, I am now in command. Okay, they're much happier with the idea of not subterfuge, but intimidation. And when you're 15 feet tall and armored and wearing armor on top of the armor you've grown, it does have that tendency. Ultimately, yes, Eric. And this is why when people keep telling me, when are the aliens going to sort out this problem? They're in control of it. Why don't they straighten it out? Do you really want them to? Their methods are a little, shall we say, bad for your health. I mean, some of you are gamers, so you may recognize this particular weapon. Okay. What the heck was it called? It was really, really old. And I keep forgetting which one. Yeah, very much draconian methods. I mean, the term draconian methods is absolutely on par. They're violent, they're brutal, and they're extremely efficient. But they don't bother with the idea of, we'll scare you and we'll torture you and we'll deprive you of stuff. They go, we're in control or you're dead. It's not a real big decision. Okay, we've decided this is our planet, and we just simply decided it's our planet because we got here. This is why when humans go, we're going to colonize an occupied planet, it's not called colonizing, it's called an invasion. And the Sarkon were very blunt about it. We're here. And they didn't bother with sneaking around and trying to infiltrate the government. A little hard for a 15-foot individual to make themselves look like they're only 6. Okay. So they turned around and just showed up on their ship and went, we're here. And we're now in control. And yes, you can bring your military if you'd like to lose a guy and lose a few vehicles. knock yourself out. We're not against it, but we don't have an interest in it. And this is where things got. I mean, if people would understand that the Sarkon, what people call the Alpha Draconis, or some may assume that that's the only reptilian out there. Not even close. Okay. Now, I will tell you, if you ever see a cigar-shaped UFO, maybe as much as 3 miles long, okay, with only one bank of windows, those are Sarkon ships. No, Big, they are third dimensional. To be clear, again, I've mentioned this before, to be clear, every single entity, every single race that you ever see, ever hear about existing in our world, okay, in our reality, every single one of them is third dimensional. Some of them do vibrate faster and therefore are harder to see, or therefore may be able to pass through a wall. Or if you take a look at the Corlock, because they've got no solid function, no solid form, they can ooze through, very much like the 1950s show The Blob, or the early 2000s Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I think it was early 2000s with Odo. Okay, but no. When people tell, and I get this a lot with people going, oh, we're raising to the fourth dimension. No, you're not. Okay. You literally are not going to raise to the fourth dimension. Nobody is. Well, that's not 100% correct. When you have found all of your component parts of your soul, okay, of your original soul, in other words, your original soulmate, and you merge to become that one single entity, the one that arrived here in the first place, at that point, from the Great Hub, you will be able to go to the first, second, fourth, fifth, all the way up to the 12th dimension. But not until you do that. Myself, I'm not at that point. Rest assured, if I was, heart attacks and bad teeth or in bad eyes and a bad leg wouldn't exist in my world. I'm not perfect. Okay. Am I temperamental? Certainly. But what do we got here? Yeah, you and people would love that. I get a kick out of it though, Big. Okay. The thing is, people are so intent or so discontent with the third dimension, with Earth. Let's go to a different dimension because it's better. Bad news. They're essentially the same problems. Different dimensional networks, but it's the same kind of a setup. Okay. And no, we are not going to jump from the third dimension to the fifth dimension bypassing the fourth. Okay, it's not going to work that way. First of all, think of it in basic math. Okay, you start with the number 1. You have to get to 2 before you'll ever get to 3. From 3, you cannot get to 5 if you don't hit 4 first. There are no shortcuts in soul evolution. It doesn't work that way. Okay. It literally boils down to you got to do it the hard way, as it were. Okay. See, I always chalk up the other thing there, Big J, is I always chalk that kind of concept up to the same thing that I keep getting told periodically. Oh, the world's going to end tomorrow. I'm like, guys, like the last time I heard about it, about a week before it was supposed to die, I'm like, would somebody mind giving me a little heads up? But no. Sorry, you're stuck in the third dimension for a while. Now, there are those of you that'll go, I don't believe that. Don't. Yeah, that's the thing is, Big J. they are, when people are trying to do that, you're looking at third dimensional entities striving to figure out a way to quantify the fourth dimension. Okay. And in all fairness, I'm not even certain how you would quantify it. Okay. I can tell you that when you take a look at the picture of a tesseract, okay, it does a reasonable job of expressing it. Okay, of demonstrating it. But the fourth dimension space, you got to remember, space is a product of the third dimension because you've got 1 point here, you got 1 point over here, and you've got all this area in between. This is a product of the third dimension. It is not something. I mean, they have the same argument on the fourth dimension about it evolving to the fifth and sixth. They've got the same problem. Okay. So, I mean, when you're looking at that side of it, I'm going to have to get a booster. I don't like the fact that it's that fuzzy, but I can't do much with it. Okay. So I will look into that as I go to replace this computer. Eric's just said, no matter what dimension you are on, there's always a dimension beyond your ability to perceive. Absolutely. Now, when I first got to this reality, there were only 12. I don't know what the final number is at this point, but when I first got here, there were only 12 dimensions. Okay, I happen to be assigned to the third. And yes, we are talking long ago. So I mean, from my standpoint, boils down to this. You're in the third dimension. Okay. You live here. Everything you can perceive here is third dimensional. Some of it vibrates too fast to see and thereby can pass through other solid objects. Okay. But everything you witness is third dimensional. You're going to have to get used to the idea that you're stuck in the third dimension while you're alive. Okay. That's just the way that reality itself works. And fortunately, you don't have to believe me. This is the nice part from my end. I don't get stressed out over people not believing me simply because of the fact that why bother? This is why I say, don't just take my own word for it. Do your own research. Now, of course, you get some people that are in the chat room. They're natural born scientists, so their ability to do certain research is a little bit more in depth. Okay. Myself, I am what you would tend to call more theoretical because I don't have a way of proving what I know, except by extrapolatory, comparison. Or corroboration with what other people have seen. So when we take a look, at the way that the world is, the third dimension, the one we live in, this is the one that we have to work together to straighten out. And the first tool there, the first step there, is accept the fact you're in the third dimension. Okay. Whether you relate to it, whether you agree with it, whether you don't feel you belong here, rest assured, there are a lot of us who fit that bill. Okay. You have to work with it. That I can do in Big J. I actually proved it to somebody here. Trapping an astral body is actually very simple. Okay. Now, the neat part about it is, can they do it? The answer is yes. They don't have an inclination to do it unless you're invading their territory. If you're going into their territory and trying to get into their restricted rooms, they will absolutely lock you up. But all you have to do, okay, all you have to do is modify the subquantum superstructure of the atmosphere through which you're traveling, and match it to your own vibratory rate. The soul vibrates at a higher rate, therefore can pass through solid objects. Okay, but if you have the capacity to modify the atmosphere around that soul, you lock the soul down. He can't go anywhere. I did to somebody here on Earth. And we were talking about astral travel, and we were trying to explain it to the individual's other half, and she was just learning to do astral travel. And I looked at her and I went, okay, you're just learning. Let me show you something. I turned to the husband and I went, okay, you're proficient in astral travel. He goes, yeah. Okay. I says, great. Give me half a second. I paused for a moment. I says, okay, try and get out. Well, he nearly threw up on me. And he goes, what did you just do? He said, I can't get out of my body. I said, oh, told you just modified the superstructure. Now, some of you may consider that magic. Okay, and you can call it what you will, but that's how they lock it down. Okay, the important factor is that the Sarkon don't have an interest in trapping people's souls. Okay, unless said person is violating their space. At which point, let's face it, you go into somebody else's house, they have the right to actually restrain you. And I'm not talking about Earth law. Okay, in all fairness, many of the Sarkon, you get into their space, they won't trap your astral body. They'll tear you and they'll figure out where it is, they'll track it back, and you'll watch the body come apart from the inside. Okay, astral combat is often fatal. Okay. Oh, definitely do go. You know, dreams are a wonderful access point. And absolutely, when you remember your dreams, do write them down. Okay. Because the thing is, even if all you remember when you remember a dream, if all you remember is that you were running, write it down. Writing it down will help you get that, will help you draw that back to a more concise answer or a more concise image. It's kind of like when you're learning to improve your eyesight. Focus on the small details and work outward, build on them. When the Sarkon built their empire, they started off with their own world. When they managed to get peace between them, bearing in mind they were combat oriented, they were very much, might is right type setup. So when they ended up with peace on Earth, or peace on their Earth, okay, they ran into a problem. Well, now we've got peace, we've still got this drive to conquer. We've got this drive to prove that we are better. So they headed out and moved on. Ken, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, I spell it different, but yes. Okay, Sarkon, you would know them, and the Sarkon are what you may have heard of as the Alpha Draconis or Drakes. Okay, their actual name for themselves is Sarkon. And we're just discussing how their empire evolved. So of course, when they got peace on their planet, they had a unified world. Okay, now do understand this does not in this case mean, Cindy, how you doing? Glad you could join us. This does not mean they had a one-person government. When we talk about a one-world government, we are talking about essentially a government panel that sits something along the lines of what the UN does. with a lot more bloodshed during a disagreement. Okay, because you got to remember, on any planet, the people living in the Arctic have no clue how to deal with the problems being handled in a rainforest. They'll have some inkling of what to do in a desert, because realistically, the Arctic is simply a very cold desert. Okay, but when the Sarkon decided, okay, we've now got peace, but we still desire to keep building. So they started their space race was kind of like early civilizations gold race. And no, by the way, just to jump sideways here for a second, the reality of that from everything I've seen, none of the ancient aliens came here to steal our gold. Okay, there are elements that are so much more useful than gold, and quite frankly, so much shinier. Okay, they didn't require gold. It is simply humans' limited thinking that says gold is an extremely versatile element. What humans don't get is that mica is even more versatile than gold is, if you know what you're doing with it. Okay, it's just a question of figuring out how to operate with it. But the Sarkon, they went, okay, we have to keep pushing. So they went into this incredible interstellar gold rush, if you will. They were going after planets, and the different houses, if you will, for lack of a better term, okay, the different families would go after more and more planets. They thought at that time the same way that humans do. The more stuff you have, the better you are. In spite of the fact they also went, take it any way you can get it. You don't bother with theft. Okay. You don't bother with theft. You bother with conquest. Theft is a weakling's way of doing things, and the Sarkon are a lot of things. Weak is not one of them. Not really great on subterfuge either, by the way. So they kept building and getting more and more planets into their overall empire, with the world government still operating quite solidly. Okay. Honestly, gold boiled down to it was shiny. Okay, and I think it was the Spaniard, I think it was the Spanish that came over. And I'm absolutely certain that Eric has the information at the tip of his fingers or the tip of his head. But I think it was the Spanish came over, saw the way it was shiny and it reflected. All of a sudden, gold became very valuable. Okay, it was marketing that made gold so valuable. Yes, it's a versatile product. It's very versatile in many industries. Okay, but it boiled down to being a marketing maneuver. Very much like diamonds are considered such a valuable stone. They're also, from my understanding, one of the most common stones available next to granite. Okay, but they are not the best. Okay, there are elements and there are minerals out there that make gold look dull as all get out. And I'm not entirely certain how dull all get out is, but what the heck. So the Sarkon, they built their empire, and then eventually they started changing their thinking process, and they finally got to the point where they realized, and this is something mankind has not reached. Okay, you'd think the mankind would have got the message. Yeah, Eric's just adding, it's shiny and very easy to work with without other metal tools. So as a result, it evolved to be considered precious. You know, and there you have it. Ultimately, it boiled down to its utility. Okay, its appearance and utility. And let's face it, even today, I like my shiny things. See, if you look at my glasses, they're shiny, which is really weird. They're also pretty bad off. But, they reflect. But, then the neat part about it is anything that you place value on becomes more valuable on the whole. Okay. With the Sarkons, they simply built too far. Cindy's just asking, when did disability start for you? Now I gotta ask you one small little detail. The short answer would be when I was born. Okay, but did you have a specific ability that you were wondering about? See, most human corporeals are born with essentially six senses, five standard senses: taste, touch, scent, hearing, and eyesight. And of course, your taste and your scent are tightly linked. Okay, and then you get the sixth one, which is a rudimentary sixth sense, which boils down to everything else dumped in one. I was born with 15. Okay. Not all of them work perfectly by any functional stretch, and I've shut some of them down. But memory is a really weird thing. So, you have your standard, your sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Then I ended up with clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, what I heard one person call clairosmic, i.e., smelling at a distance, or true smelling, if you will. And I have no idea what term people use for taste. And then you've got psychometry, mediumship, and you end up with mind over body, aka psychocellular kinesis, aka the ability to focus on your body and heal it. Or you have psychokinesis, which is mind over matter, the ability to move things without actually physically touching them. Oh, thank you very much there, Cindy. That answered a lot. If we talk this lifetime, realistically, the first run-in I had with them was literally the day I was born, but my first abduction, I was about 2.5 years old the first time I got taken. Okay, and then I learned over the years how to communicate with them. But bearing in mind, my memories date back literally universal flips. Okay, I started learning a long time ago, a very long time ago. But it really boiled down to an issue of not treating them differently than I treat everybody else. People have asked me that before about why would they turn to you at all? It's because I don't see them as any different than humans or than plants. Okay, I just don't see them differently. So now it's a question of just getting everything pulled together and striving to help people understand that, yes, they look different, they react differently, they have different outlooks. But I've been dealing with them. When I was a kid, it was just plain normal for me. The first memory that we uncovered, my first functional memory of a positive nature. Hey, Gordana, how you doing? Glad you could join us. My first positive interaction was with a bunch of small off-worlders. And now I can't say they were all kids. They were the size of children. But that doesn't mean much of anything, to be honest. Well, in all fairness, Cindy, I am a strong believer myself in not pursuing the concept of lucid dreaming. Okay, and here's why. Lucid dreaming is your ability to control what your dream is doing or what you're doing in your dream. Problem with that is dreams have a specific purpose. Okay, your dreams are subconscious's way of reaching out and guiding you in a positive, more efficient direction against things that you may not consciously recognize. The moment you take on lucid dreaming, and there are people that are extremely good at it, you lose the usefulness of the dreams because you no longer have the ability to go, oh, this is what it's trying to tell me, because you're the one telling it what to tell you. So I would strongly recommend absolutely strive to remember your dreams. Strive to write them down as soon as you wake up. And remember to put the time and date that you had the dream. Okay. Write it down as much detail as you can. But I strongly derails your ability to utilize dream information properly. At least from everything I've seen. Okay. This is also, by the way, one of the reasons, the primary reason why I never went to school to become a psychologist, even though I was told I should. Because the moment you have that analytical side, it rails the rest of it. Not a problem there, Cindy. Because I run on instinct. This is why when somebody goes, what's this? I just look and go, here's the answer. You can do with it what you will. This is the answer as I see it. And I love the people that turn around and go, well, where's your proof? Because my answer is simple. I don't have any. Okay. Tell you what, give that a shot. If it works, great. If not, wait 30 years, you'll find out. But this is why, understanding what psychology was, I didn't bother going to get a degree in it. Am I a psychologist? No. But I'm also not bound by somebody else's code as to what I can say or what I can't say, aside from certain things. Like, one of the things I refuse to do is get into anything in the way of a practical approach of overthrowing a government, derailing a company. Okay, this is just not part of the deal. Yes, and I believe you said you were empathic, did you not? Working in an environment like that is absolutely bound to be a nightmare. Okay, I do feel for you. On the other hand, on behalf of the people you were helping, absolutely my hat goes off to you. Absolutely. That is one of those jobs that requires a real amount of dedication and backbone. Okay. Especially if you were with you being a psych nurse, you had your hands tied where they said you can't do that. And you're looking and going, but that'll work. Yeah, and that makes total sense there, Nathan. Nathan's just saying, I'm focusing on personal contact and disclosure. The funny thing is, in today's world, disclosure is kind of a twisted concept. Because even people in the UFO community, and I see this happen all the time. Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes total sense there, Nathan. So many people in the UFO community, you tell them, oh, I think I've been abducted. And so many of them, they claim they believe in alien abductions, they believe in off-worlders. Okay. And yet the moment you say, I think I may have been abducted, the massive majority of them look at you and go, no, you're just making that up to get attention. Nothing annoys me. Well, a lot of things annoy me. But that's one of those things where I look at it going, there is a problem here. Well, that always screws up the program, doesn't it? I'm just looking at this. Cindy's going, I did know when someone was about to try to commit suicide. That really interferes with their efforts usually. I've dealt with suicide. When I was working on the psychic lines, I actually had a number of suicide callers. And I had a different way of looking at it. But I never lost one. And I'm just looking at this. Yeah, Philip's just added. My grandma was a psych registered nurse in the 60s. Well, it's an extremely exciting field. It really is. And back in the 60s, talking about cutting edge. Yeah. Eric's going, one of the psych patients I worked with told me out of the blue, the only difference between us and us is you sleep on the other side of that locked door. He probably wasn't that far off. You before, Eric. I remember I was in a psych ward visiting a friend of mine and got talking to an inpatient. And I talked to her for a minute and I says, there's only one difference between you and I. And this is with the resident psychiatrist right there. And she goes, oh, what's that? I says, well, there's two differences. You're female, I'm male. But the only functional difference is I knew the answers to the questions they were looking for. Oh, the burnout rate has to be extreme. The burnout rate in psychic work is bad. The fact I survived it, and the only reason I quit doing it on a daily basis was because the company closed. I was asked the other day whether I would still be willing to do it, and the answer is yeah. It's just not where my focus is, that's all. Doesn't mean it stopped anyway. Yeah. And Big J is just saying it helps with lucid dreaming if you sleep on your stomach. Well, Nathan, if you take a door and you lock the door from both sides, I think they call that a wall at that point. Although it does give you something to occupy your time with. But, and yeah, we went a little sideways, and that's okay. I don't know. I found out, Philip, the best one I ever pulled off was I can actually essentially, Cindy, when you think about it, 85% of what I did was common sense and life experience. 85% of it I could explain exactly why people were doing what they were doing. I actually got told by my primary psychiatrist if I ever went after my psychology degree, he said, you'll be one of the best. Well, the reality is I've got no interest in a degree. And I certainly don't consider myself one of the best. When I look at that, I'm just looking at that, Nathan. And there was a author that some of you may remember back in the 1970s by the name of Irma Bombeck. And she had a book out that literally was titled "The Grass is Always Greener on the Other Side of the Fence." The subtitle, of course, that is where the septic system is leaking. I've just gone on the topic of dreams. What do fever dreams mean when someone is sick? Usually it means literally you're going through a very accelerated healing process. Fever literally burns out. From my experience, it is designed to burn out where the illness is. And the thing is, when you start having a dream where part of you is hot, Okay, i.e. the forehead, maybe your abdomen feels like it's on fire in the dream. That's another word, another good word for it there, Jordana, is just purging. Okay. When you focus in on that overheating side, wherever the overheat is, that's where the organ's in trouble. Okay. And it boils down to your subconscious going, I know you've got a problem here. We need to correct this. Yeah, Phil's just going, it's extraordinarily easy to get a master's degree in psychology here in the US. Yeah. Unfortunately, you're still dealing with ideas that are, well, politely put, and do understand it's not just the States. Okay. Canada and pretty much every other country has the same problem. They are dealing with archaic ideas. Okay. This is why the moment somebody doesn't think normal and doesn't think like everybody else, you're nuts. Or you're schizophrenic or whatever. Okay. They hang labels on that are intriguing and make it sound really bad. But really, when you think about it, people dealing with schizophrenia, people dealing with autism, simply look at the world different. Philip, it's got to be better somewhere. But but you're dealing with a common evolutionary complication. Well, that would make sense. You know, Eric's just saying we called it the alchemy of the mind when I was in college. And when you think about it, if you take two thoughts that are not related and you combine that are apparently not related and you combine them, you will end up with a varied thought. Okay. The trick is determining which one you're going to focus on. Now, I will tell you, whether you believe in gravity or not, I recommend taking into consideration that defying gravity is a good way to get yourself hurt. Okay. But no, people have to, it is very much a case of it is time for people to start evolving their psychological outlook. And by the way, it is happening. More and more people are starting to realize that, yeah, the way we've been identifying things hasn't really yielded much fruit. Henry's just asked, if you fulfill certain physical characteristics, it might be even easier to get a degree these days. I'm not entirely certain how fulfilling a physical characteristic would make it easier, but I have no doubt you're probably right. You know, from my standpoint, it boils down to a very simple little problem. Okay, we're looking at, and again, see, the funny part here is it was this same evolutionary thing that cut the Sarkon Empire back. Is they came to realize that having all of these planets, having all of these things in your name, didn't amount to much. So they started losing interest in them and cut the outer ones off. Kind of like if you think back about 4 years now, I guess, maybe a little longer. I go back 10 years. My hair was, I kid you not, down here. If you take a look at my older videos, you'll see my hair used to be way down here. Okay. I got tired of it, and for whatever reason, I cut it back. Okay. They did the same thing with the Empire. As you start to pull inside yourself and start to realize what kind of treasure trove is built inside your own mind, the material world begins to make less and less of an impact. Okay. What do we got? Ever know of someone losing their license over the well, Philip goes, I love when it does that. Phelps just said, ever know of someone losing their license over ethical over ethics violation. Oh, they absolutely do. There have been countless cases where that happens. I'm going to bring you up on a short answer there, Philip. Philip just goes, a degree in alchemy sounds fun. Eric, talking directly to Eric, I'd love to meet someone with a degree in alchemy. Now, I won't speak. I won't speak to the degree on it. But as far as the knowledge basis goes, Philip, you're probably talking to one of the closest things to an alchemist already when you're talking to Eric. Yeah, it's been a day or two. I haven't traveled very far at all since then. Gordana is just going, some folks choose professional degree as moneymaker, such as medical doctors, who doesn't like people, patients, teachers, kids, etc. Yeah, that's the sad part about it. Not a problem there, Eric. The reality is people talk about kids having too much, having too much of an imagination, i.e., you've got an imaginary friend. Well, that's a wonderful imagination. Now grow up. The silly part about it is that technological advances and societal advances have all happened at the behest of somebody's imagination. In the case of the Lemurian Empire, so did the end of their civilization, but that was not a problem. Oh, society is most assuredly sick. I could not agree with you more, I don't think, Gardana. But I also try and hold the concept that we can actually help it get healthy again by working with each other. But we've got to reach the point that the material world is not the things that you can have, the amount of belongings you have is not what's going to make you better. Okay. It just doesn't work that way. From that standpoint, we're looking at a very serious little complication. Okay, but it's going to take more than just one person. And one of the things I keep looking at is this. Like I mentioned multiple times, like I've talked, and it's funny when I always have to look up to the Sarkon. I have no options. Okay, I mean, let's face it. I come up to about the mid, just over the knee or the mid thigh. I have no choice but to look up to them. Okay, do I put them on a pedestal? Why bother? They're already tall. But the reason I can get along with them is I understand what they're up to, and I just don't see the point in fearing the fact they can kill me. I mean, let's face it. You can't see it, but I've got a full-size legal filing cabinet over here. Four drawer legal filing cabinet. I didn't have the strength to pick it up, to pick up even one end of it. Thank heavens I had friends over. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. The reality is, Cindy, what I've understood is most people that go into, and this may be a misunderstanding on my part, but most people that have an interest in psychology or in psychiatry are trying to understand themselves. That's what draws them into it. Problem I ran into is I understood exactly what my problem was, and there is no cure for it. Okay, well, I guess maybe a lobotomy would work. Haven't tried one of those and really not looking, at least not this lifetime. What do we got here? The funny thing is, the funny thing there, Henry, if you take a look at the so-called third world countries where they don't have a lot to eat, they don't have a lot of stuff. These people are some. When I hit 46 years, okay, I turned around. When I hit 46 years of age, I turned around and went, this material stuff, I've got to have some tech which doesn't work properly for me in the first place. Okay. But the majority of the material stuff I've got has started going out of the way. Okay. Where are we? Well, that's an interesting step backwards in time. I know of some places where they still lobotomize people suffering from schizophrenia as a cure. Yeah, honestly, Cindy, technology has simply made people more aware of it, and as such, people dwell on it more. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you this: lobotomy it does cure a lot of things because you can't think anymore. You sit there drooling. A lobotomy does not have quite the same effect. But no, the reality is, if they pass a law like that, Philip, and I'm certainly not going down that road. Okay, many times that we have laws that come out that are a little screwy, it's because people that have a vested interest in it all of a sudden figure we can make better money at this, or if we ignore it, the problem will go away. Okay, that hasn't worked out all that well for me. I don't ignore my heart. Okay, I just look at it and go, well, yes, it is. That's a funny thing, but the sad part there, Cindy, and you being in the field that you're in, would understand this better than many. But humanity has lost a lot of its humane treatment of other people. Humans used to be a lot more accepting and a lot more caring about the infirm. In today's world, it takes too much effort, I'm guessing. I do appreciate that there, Nathan. You know, I mean, I'm healing at a staggering rate. I've got to deal with a couple of things tomorrow. Right. Like some genius decided that without talking to me, they were actually going to book me for an operation. They haven't talked to me about it at all, at least not from my recollection. So I'll have to deal with them tomorrow. It was said one day, Gordana, that the reason that education has turned to stopping educating people is because the uneducated are easier to control. People that think ask questions. Okay. And if you're asking questions, then the people that don't desire to answer them get edgy. Now, in my case, I don't know how not to think. See, this is why I say, and you're absolutely right, Cindy. People are in overload. And this is why I say for every article, every picture that you look at that is of a negative impact, look at two or repost two that are positive. This will help turn the tide. Okay. It's like if you listen to music that's really angry and really, really hard on you, see, Henry, you just got to learn how to insult people better. No, don't do that. You know, in a nutshell, I remember I went out on a date with a woman before I ended up actually solidly attached. Went out on a date with her, and she claimed to be very, she was a professional chef, very laid back, very easygoing. We walked into, now I don't know if you guys know what a Denny's is. Okay, some of you undoubtedly do. But it boils down to a family restaurant. I went into this restaurant with this woman. She said she was very laid back. We went into a Denny's. Yeah, it was great. Up here, not so much. But we walked into the restaurant, and the first thing this woman did before we even got seated was she started complaining about the placement settings in a Denny's. I never finished the date. I never even had the first coffee. Because from my standpoint, that kind of closed-minded behavior, just not worth it to me. Denny's, I'm not personally impressed with. Matter of fact, I was really disgusted with it when I was in there for 20 minutes and didn't even get a coffee. No, it was not a good date. On the other hand, I didn't have a second one with her. Now I just don't bother dating anybody. Well, I can't see the point. I've got one. There's no point in getting an extra. Yeah, Adam says, it's Denny's. There's not much for place settings to begin with. Well, in my opinion, the food matters most. But if the service is garbage, I won't go back. And the one thing I will tell you about any restaurant, the moment I find out, if I go into a restaurant and I get my meal, it can be the best meal in the world. If that restaurant adds on to the bottom of the bill, you're paying a 15% mandatory gratuity. It can say you're paying a 5% mandatory gratuity. And I won't ever go back to the restaurant. But then you got to realize, in my case, I usually voluntarily pay anywhere from 30 to 50. Okay. That's just the way I've been all my life. Boy, did we go sideways on that. Anybody ever notice we start off on one topic and end up somewhere off in the other end of the universe? I can understand that, Joe. The funny thing, well, that was neat. I nearly had a bird in my window in my apartment here. Missed the window by like that much. You know. The neat part about it, yeah, and that for me is just plain normal. I did it the other day. I actually walked into the restaurant thing. I only go to one restaurant in town here. Right. That's not a bad idea there. But I don't know if we can hold a straight line on that. The funny thing where it comes to that is, this is why I've been writing in 1, 2, 3 today, on top of reorganizing my office. I've been writing in 4 different books. Five. Sorry. But no, it's like I've told people, I used to procrastinate. Now I just don't bother doing it. All you got to do there, Eric, is find a time that works. Find a time you're available, and I'll be more than happy to do it with you. My schedule is pretty open. I'm just shutting. I've closed off a few things that I was dealing with, and found that from my standpoint, I had too many other things on the go and too many things I desired to get done. But I do my best to maneuver and get around things. But when I'm working when I'm working on live stream, trying to get some of the stuff done doesn't work too well. Absolutely, Eric. You know how to get a hold of me. Okay. In my case, I'm home most of the time. As a matter of fact, after taking my son out to dinner, well, more to the point, I brought dinner in. I've wiped out this week's allowance for going out for dinner. So I'm not going very far in this week. I don't know. I was told writing 40 books at once means you're not retiring. Well, I was actually told writing 30 wasn't retirement. Oh, no, Philip, what I did, my eldest son is moving home. So the room that the office was set up in had to be emptied so he has a place because he's going back to college. And, he's 25 now, almost 26. Right. So I emptied the office out and I've just moved the office back into my bedroom where it was for years. Okay. That stuff behind me, that is my bed, which I've got to get clear before I can go to bed. You know, oh, well, the good news there, Ken, what it boils down to is my teeth are shot. Okay. But the reality of it from my standpoint is I'm phoning them up tomorrow and going, no, I'm not going in for a surgery. Nobody's talked to me about it. And besides that, I just got a hold of somebody today. I just had my lawyer phone me back today. They are sending me a checklist to get my will set up. Because much as I've got no intention on dying on the table, there is this funny little complication of it can happen. It's happened to me before. It's happened to two of my family members where they die on the table. The doc goes, "Oh, he's dead. Tag him," and then we wake up. In my case, I got all the way to the morgue. It was great. Heck of a shock for the poor tech. But no, from my standpoint, I don't know how they came about it, and that's one of the big concerns. I did the lab rat thing before, and I'm just not that interested in it anymore. But no, the neat part is, and this is why I end up on here, sometimes at really stupid times, I'll end up on the air because this is where I end up socializing. I mean, this is pretty much it. But the one thing I have found, I've got right now, the Return to Paradise is coming along nicely. Races of the Worlds, I've got to finish off the last set and get them sent out tonight. What do we got? Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, Philip. When my adult teeth came in, when they originally came in, I actually had 8 upper incisors. And no, wait a minute. I had, 8 upper incisors and 6 lower incisors. Okay, they grew in behind each other. I had 38 adult teeth when I first came in, when I first got my adult teeth. Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't want my kids to go through the same thing that my brother has gone through, trying to sort things out without a will. Yeah. For me, I found I found a lawyer that seems to be on the up and up, and to me, the reality is when I die, it no longer matters to me. I'm not going to worry too much about people. Even the ones I care about now. Absolutely, Henry. And I will point out one other thing, guys. I think I thanked you guys for it before. We had somebody come in here. We had somebody come into this chat room, and the first words out of their mouth was, because there was a lot of cross chatter going on, and the first words out of this person's mouth were, "Man, this place is full of trolls." I didn't have to say a word. Almost everybody in the chat room jumped on them with both feet and a baseball bat. you know, and he disappeared. I haven't seen him back. You know, now how, pray tell, could that happen? Adam just going, my daughter somehow got sweet potato puree in her neck rolls. I don't even know how that would be possible. Yeah, the nice part about a will, from my standpoint, the one thing I'm looking at is this. You know, I'll get the will done so it's all sorted out. But the executor, the person that'll get, or more to the point, the corporation I'll get to deal with the executorship of it will be the law firm that actually does the will up. I won't put my kids into that position. Hey, Kimberly, how are you? Glad you could join us. Well, that would explain that. Yep. Yeah, little munchkins are certainly, you know, little munchkins have very, very grabby fingers. You know, in my case, it was a little different. I could grab from the other end of a 6-foot table. And thank you for asking, Kimberly. The answer is yes. I was actually fine after about an hour, but I figured I'd push the limit a little hard, so I just decided no, best not. And before you go there, no, going to the hospital was not one of the options, because with the speed my heart resets, by the time I spend 8 hours down there, stressed to the gills because of it being in the hospital, I'd have been fine. And then they go, "Well, what are you here for? There's no sign of a problem." I was sitting there going, like, not one you'd recognize anyway. you know, But no, from my standpoint, it boils down to careful, Adam. If she's going to be 5 months old in 2 weeks, give her another 2 weeks. It's going to feel like 2 weeks. She's going to be 18. You know, I mean, the reality of it is, the reality is, if you turn when you're looking at kids, and the neat part about it is you want to see gentle giants. Okay, and yes, I'm going back to where I started. When you look at the Sarkon, okay, they do the Sarkon, the Tormenon, the Srazazian, and the Kamalian all give birth, and they all lay eggs. Okay, this is one of the common denominators in them. When you look at the Chitawari, which are not related to the others, okay, they still lay eggs. The difference is they raise their own clutches. Okay. Yeah, from my standpoint, the big problem I had, Philip, was I put pretty much anything in my mouth. The problem is I could digest just about anything. You know, and the nice part about it for me was getting ill was not one of the things I really did a lot. Aside from death and epilepsy, minor annoyances. Hey Derek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The neat part about it, when I take a look at the Sargon, and like I said, I've got to get my printer hooked up and get some more ink for it. But I'll be upgrading my computer in the near future and be able to deal with that. What do we got? I will be evolving this setup. Like I'm back up with this computer. I'm back up to 3 monitors. One here, and one up here. Okay, this one's up here just because the shelf is right there. Well, it's an empty. It's a box. It's a Smirnoff box. I've got junk that I'm in the process of getting rid of there, Derek. Okay, and I went to the liquor store and picked up a bunch of empty boxes so I could get rid of the stuff. Yeah, now you just gotta worry about when she starts trying to bite their stuff. The reality is having a box, like a case of alcohol when I was drinking heavily, that one case right there. Okay, I think that was 26ers, or is that one 40s? I'm not entirely certain. I think that one held 26ers. But that case wouldn't have lasted me 2 weeks in my house when I was drinking. Yeah. Yeah, I stopped a little before you. I stopped in 87. Right. But the nice little part, when we take a look at it, the thing is, wherever you are, whatever race you're working on, whatever race you are, it doesn't matter. There are a lot of physiological differences, but the basic bottom line is this: everyone from a spiritual standpoint is equally important. And this is why I say working together, we can make this a better world. Okay, for just about everybody. There's certainly going to be people that don't like the idea of change. We're taught change is frightening, change is scary, change is difficult. I'm telling you, for those of you that are listening, every word that anybody utters, every thought that you have, okay, is a change. So unless you're writhing in agony, my guess is it's happening pretty easily with no pain. Okay. Philip, drinking a lot of ethyl alcohol will give a lot of people insomnia. I don't actually have insomnia. I can drop asleep in a heartbeat. I don't have narcolepsy, but I can go to sleep like that if I need to. Best one I ever pulled off was falling asleep standing up. Yeah. Gordon has just gone cute. 9-month-old nephew of mine had gravel stashed in his mouth, geranium petals. Then we played blowing petals together and laughing. Yeah, my eldest son actually pulled a maneuver when he was still in arms. Now this is a true gamer. Okay, we were gaming, sitting at the table. Next thing I knew, he tried eating a handful of dice. No, he didn't end up in the hospital. We got him turned upside down and cleaned out real quick. But boy, did it scare him. Now, I would love a pain threshold like that. You know, I can't even sit in a dentist chair without my blood pressure going through the roof. This is one of the things that created an interesting problem. And that's why I've got to talk to the dentist tomorrow and go, what were you thinking? Nobody has talked to me about any of the preparation, at least not that I'm aware of. Oh, no, Derek, what we didn't actually get into the underground tunnel networks. We had started off the first hour-ish, we were covering the evolution of the Sarkon reptilian race. Okay, and where that led to. You know, understand none of the articles that are out pretty much have I ever read. I don't research. You know, I talk to the people involved, as in this case, the Sarkons. Okay. I'll bet he was there, Kimberly. But no, the tunnels, where are we? Dimus by species. Read an article in the 20s that there are underground tunnel systems. Oh, there are tunnel systems all throughout the world. Okay. Africa is riddled with them, but it's the Chitawari in Africa. Okay. The Chitawari in Africa, you've got civiizations all over Canada and the United States. Tormodons, it depends on the day of the week. You know, and I do know of Teklak, which are in New York, in the New York sewer system. There was actually a video on YouTube that showed the Teklak perfectly. Yeah, absolutely do that, Joe. No, yeah, Phil. The problem for me, the problem with dentists isn't the dentists are bad. Okay, the problem is decades back, I told the dentist that the anesthetic hadn't taken. Okay, and he ignored me and told me that I was full of it and removed 2 teeth without anesthetic. Since then, I've never been able to walk back into a dentist's office without my blood pressure going through the roof. Needless to say, I have a problem. Got the same issue where it comes to the hospital. Okay, for pretty much the same thing. But you are right, Joe. If you don't have a sense of humor in life, as twisted as it may be, Eric, a sense of humor is actually rather useful. Yeah, I mean, once in a while you'll find a doctor with a brain too, but they're kind of like trying to find hen's teeth sometimes. Yeah, that's just a terrible name for a doctor and for a dentist. Adam's going, my dentist is named Dr. Payne. I'm not entirely certain that would be an enjoyable setup. Yeah, that was exactly the problem, Henry. And since then, I've never been able to set foot back in a dentist's office. I have one dentist I was talking to, and I told her what the problem was, and I says, I'm not going onto your chair without anesthetic. And she looks at me and goes, you're not going onto my chair? I'm not letting you on my chair. You know, yeah, doesn't it though? I believe they call them quacks for a reason. Well, I am glad to hear that, Steph. You know, unfortunately, in my case, my immunity to anesthetic makes dealing with me, to say the least, challenging. But no, the neat part with the Sarkon Empire, humans have the same capacity, and quite frankly, they're going down the same road. Okay, as in, let's get caught up on the idea that all of the material stuff really matters. You'd think with Egypt working the way it did, with the pharaohs collecting all the stuff and putting it in a box for themselves for when they passed over, that they'd have figured out, you know, that they would have figured out. Philip, you missed the duck, at least from my standpoint. You know, I grew up with it being 3 ducks and a goose. But you'd think with the Egyptians bearing all their stuff with them, including many of their slaves, okay, and figuring it'll be there when they get back. They passed away. The stuff's all still there. You would think that humans figured it out, but no. Mankind has the same idea that Sarkons have. Number one, material stuff matters, and it really doesn't. You're not taking it with you. Now, don't get me wrong. I prefer my luxuries. I prefer the nicer things in life. Absolutely. There we go. So we just got a late duck. The reality of it from my end, okay, is when people can figure out that all the material stuff in the world isn't going to make your life better. It may make it a little more comfortable, but you're not taking it with you. Okay, it doesn't work that way. When people can piece this together, we'll start realizing everybody has pretty much the same setup. Where are we here? Does anyone know the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Sorry, no. East swallow or west one? Yeah, yeah. I'm going the same place. Yeah. See, my problem there, Philip, is I keep thinking maybe they'll get the last time that I got an overdose in anesthetic, they gave me an overdose in anesthetic and morphine. And instead of it doing damage, it reset my color and my eyesight so I could see better, so that I could actually see color. Sadly, Adam, the answer from my end is not a snowball's prayer. Of course, I couldn't work out the speed and velocity of an aircraft either. But one of the things that I will tell you, if mankind continues down the path they're going down, they're going to run into the same problem. Okay, the Sarkon Empire expanded too fast and ended up running into a problem. Mankind is putting too much weight on the value of material stuff. You're not taking it with you anyway. Okay, the Sarkon learned it the hard way. Many of the civilizations in Earth's history haven't figured it out either. Now, why does that not surprise me, Eric? Like I said, I've run into one other scientist that quite literally rivals Eric. Okay, where it comes to the amount of different information that he's got. But where are we here? With this in mind, people. Okay, I've been on here for 2 hours. That being said, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Really appreciate the concern that was voiced. Okay. Yes, I am doing better. And I will continue. Okay, I will continue moving forward. But thank you so much for sharing your time with me. And I will catch up with you again. Until then, take care of yourself. For sakes.